Chapter 2 Magical Connections by Lisa McSherry. Creating a lasting and healthy spiritual group. So, first, before I get started, I really want to say that obviously this is not my book. I'm just practicing reading out loud. But this book seems to be really good so far. There are quite a few chapters that are pretty thin, so I may be doing more than one chapter, say tonight and maybe tomorrow night as well. But yeah, so let's get started. Chapter 2, Making Contact. A quick survey of occult literature indicates that magical groups in modern times form in one of two ways. They are either formed by like-minded people who usually know one another personally, or by placing advertisements in pagan-friendly journals. Membership is, for the most part, limited to physical geography. Geography is not a limiting factor in a cyber group, and in the process of advertising can be as simple as sending an email. Knowing what you want in a member will help define the screening process. The more clearly you know what your ideal is, the more likely you will see that person when he or she applies. Although joining a coven is not quite the same as applying for a job, there are some interesting similarities in the process to which both sides should pay attention in the interviewing process. The rest of this chapter is based on the assumption that you are starting a new group. The first thing to do is answer a set of questions. How do I find members? What can I do to make sure that they are compatible? And who will help with this endeavor? Advertising. It's hard to start a group if you don't tell anyone about it. Sharing the news can be local or region-wide. It can be via word of mouth or anonymous advertising. Even if you have no intention of using it, I recommend you creating an advertisement. Take out a large piece of paper or open a text editor. Taking a few minutes with each, answer these questions. What is the first goal that needs to be achieved? What is the longest term goal? And what style will you work in? Remember, if you are only interested in creating a Celtic traditional coven, then you're not trying to attract people primarily concerned with Native American shamanism. Is your ad focused enough? Are you looking for experienced witches to share knowledge and support one another as they grow in their knowledge of the mysteries? A group of neophytes? A mixture of both? Knowing what kind of people you want to attract will help you decide where you wish to post your invitation. Each magazine, website, and list online has a different audience, and there's no point in advertising for your new Aeon temple on the traditional witch list, for example. You'll just irritate those members and waste your time. Before posting the ad, think about its wording and its elements. Is the tone excited, solemn, or anxious? Keep in mind that your invitation will be the first glimpse others will have of you, and first impressions are vital. Here's an example of a physical advertisement to start a coven. Experienced witch looking for new students with whom to share her knowledge. A one-year course of study will provide you with the knowledge of meditation, visualization, correspondences, ritual creation and performance, basic healing skills, the history of Wicca, and much more. You must be willing to commit to this learning on a daily basis as well as in weekly meetings. Please contact Ma'at at P.O. Box 123, Occult City, CA 94666. Notice how readers are told what they will learn, how long it will take, and the commitment requirement. The advertisement is a bit long, which costs more to place in a print medium, but you will probably have higher quality, more appropriate responses. There are several negatives, however. One is that it can take a while for your advertisement to be printed, as many journals only publish quarterly. By the time people have responded to your advertisement, met with you, and agreed to become members, a year may pass before the group can start. Another consideration is that the use of the word witch, Wicca, or witchcraft may invite religious bigots to contact you and tell you that you're going to hell. If there is a high level of religious bigotry in your area, you may want to open a P.O. box. Here's a list of places you could advertise for new members in the physical world. Magical Blend, Sage Woman, Pangaea, The Beltane Papers, Pentacle Magazine in the UK, White Dragon in the UK, If, the Journal. A good magazine stand will provide you with further ideas. Local New Age journals, health magazines, feminist or New Age bookstores, and cafes are also great sources and resources. Tell your friends and have them tell all of their friends as well. If there is a university or college nearby, place notices on bulletin boards and consider advertising in the campus newspaper. Note, however, that many campuses regulate use of their bulletin boards. With the rise of hate crimes, many now require posters to be approved first. An electronic ad is very different because it's not limited to the amount of space you can buy or a publication schedule. An electronic ad might read as follows. Greetings, this is my aunt, and I have been practicing witch for nearly 20 years, working both solitary and in a variety of magical groups. In 1997, I joined Shadow Moon Coven, where I was formally trained and initiated to the 3rd degree. Our cyber coven is hiving, and I'm looking for a new member to teach in the daughter coven, Jaguar Moon. Although I am a high priestess, I am by no means the only teacher. I am joined by Starfire, an eclectic witch, who will be our healer, Dawn Rider, a priestess, a formerly solitary witch who specializes in Kabbalistic teachings, and Oakfather, a 2nd degree witch, who will act as our high priest. The Jaguar Moon tradition is best described as American eclectic Wicca with a background in British traditional witchcraft. In Jaguar Moon, you will spend a year and a day receiving a basic curriculum in almost every aspect of being a witch. This study includes the history of Wicca, coven structure, the read, ethical practices, healing, visualization, meditation, herbs and their uses, ritual components, creating your own rituals, the aspects of divinity, and how to incorporate them into your daily life, and so much more. Our system of training riches is a proven one, and we have graduated more than 50 members over the last 3 years. If you're interested in finding out more about our coven or would like to apply directly, please contact me and tell me the following: your physical name and your craft name, your age, your experience in Wicca or other systems of magic. I welcome your questions and I'm interested in receiving your application. I can be reached at hps@jaguarmoon.org. Mott. Clearly, doing an online advertisement is much more fun. You can tell your audience much more about yourself and what you're doing, but it costs you no more than the electrons transmitted via modem. Nearly nothing if you're already online. You will also reach a much larger group of people faster. In the first year, Shadow Moon had nearly 100 applicants for the first class, of which 38 people were chosen. In our second year, we had nearly 200 applications and increased our size to 50. Jaguar Moon always receives more than 50 applications for the class, and it's always difficult for us to choose which students we can accept. It varies by the number of active members. A note about style. When writing your advertisement, whether for print or online, make sure at least one other person reads the copy before you submit it. Have him or her look for spelling, punctuation, and grammatical errors. Ask her or him to tell you how she or he feels about you after reading the ad. Are you portraying yourself as someone you're not? It's easy to come across as pompous in print. Online resources for placing advertisements are Witchfox, www.witchfox.com. This is a website with a variety of places for announcing your coven. Yahoo Groups, www.yahoogroups.com. This is a list service hosting a huge number of pagan-friendly lists. Some of these lists are open to posts from non-members, others are more private. If you send your advertisement to a list service, always speak with the moderator or manager and make sure that you are welcome. Some lists consider advertising rude. Teaching an alternative. You may want to consider holding a series of one-on-one classes as a way to get to know people and to work with them prior to formally starting a magical group. Announce that you will be teaching these classes in a variety of places, perhaps both physical and online, and see who shows up. You may find the nucleus of your new group in these classes, particularly if you wish to form a teaching or information sharing coven. If the lesson is to take place in a physical location, see if you can hold it in a neutral location, a New Age spirituality store, a candle shop, or even in a room at your local library. I strongly recommend not holding it in your home. You do not know who will attend and who will then be able to return later. Welcoming Mercury and Hesta into your life. Here is a ritual designed to increase your success at forming a coven, at drawing interesting and stable members, and at speeding the process along. Cleanse yourself and your sacred space. Call the quarters, focus on air's quality of inspiration and new beginnings, fire's energy, water's intuitive link to the psychic realm, and earth's ability to reveal secrets. Invoke Mercury and Hesta. Lady of the hearth, goddess of the meeting place, Hesta, quiet goddess of hospitality, I call to you. Join my circle tonight. Lord of air, master of communication, Mercury, silver-tongued god, I call to you. Join my circle tonight. Lord and lady, I ask that you stand hosts to my coven to be. Join with me to welcome those who will join my new family. As I will, so mote it be. Get comfortable, either sitting upright, perhaps in a chair, or lying comfortably on the floor. Breathe deep for a long count and let any tension within your body release. Relax and grow still. Breathe deeply again and feel yourself slipping into a trance. You are standing on a path in a field. It is evening and you are headed home. Steadily you walk the path. It is familiar to you and your feet know the way. As you come over a low hill, you come suddenly upon a house. The path leads to its door. You walk to the door and raise your hand to knock. Before you can do so, the door opens and a young man looks out at you. He is grinning and you feel yourself smile in response. I thought I heard your step, he says to you. Welcome, welcome indeed. So saying, he opens the door wider and gestures you inside. The floor is polished wood, smooth underfoot. A fire is laid within the hearth, and the smell of something delicious cooking makes your mouth water. A beautiful woman, her hair pulled back from her face, bustles around making last-minute adjustments to the buffet of food. She looks up and smiles, and you again smile happily. Joy suffuses you, and you realize that you are home. You take a seat by the fire, now lit and crackling merrily, and you watch as people come in. Some are lost and move to the quieter corners, not mingling, but seemingly a part of the larger group. Others walk around freely, talking with everyone, not staying long in any one place. Still others walk directly to the buffet and never leave, barely pausing in their feasting to thank their hosts before trying some new delicacy. Many people, all beautiful, all wonderful. Mercury greets them all with a smile as they enter and a hug as they leave. Hesta moves among them, beaming at their praise of the feast and speaking gently to those who look lost, coaxing them to come closer to the fire, to have a small bit of food, to join the group. But the time comes when you know you must leave. You thank Hesta for her generosity, and she smiles and speaks a few words to you. You will remember her words. At the door, your hug from Mercury is accompanied by his words. You will remember his words. The path is a little steeper returning, but you gradually emerge from your trance, refreshed and energized. Thank Mercury and Hesta, dismiss the elements, thanking them for their guidance. Open the circle and ground any excess energy you may have. Setting membership criteria. Before we go much further, an overview of some fairly basic group dynamic rules is in order. First, Choose members who are committed to working with you and learning from you for a particular length of time on a regular basis. You can choose the time frames that work best for you, your group, but be clear about what they are and be firm. In my coven, we expect our students to work with us for a year and a day with a daily commitment to doing the work assigned. Second, try to choose members with a broad variety of experience and backgrounds, both magical and mundane. Diversity in the group will stimulate discussions and provide a rich learning environment. Our membership is frequently blessed with members in Australia and their perceptions of the seasons and the Sabbaths opposite ours here in the United States. We'd be rhapsodizing about the first snowdrop of spring while Cloudsword was watching the leaves turn color. We also learned from our diverse social and economic lifestyles, from Imago the perpetual student to Prairie Song the Navy SEAL. Third, think about what size of group you are comfortable leading. This issue is kind of a double-edged sword because a group that is too small will have a difficult time supporting itself, and one too large will tend to collapse under its own weight. Some scholars say that 8 is the minimum size for a physical group, and size is less of a factor in a cyber group. So there is no magic number I can give you. You will have to decide for yourself. Some issues to consider are: what kind of help do you have in leading the coven? The more help you have, the larger the group can be. Keeping the coven small at first with an idea to grow after a period of time is a good idea, especially if you expect that the initial group will act as leaders for the expanded group. Small groups tend to foster a feeling of intimacy, but if the energy gets strange, say if 2 members suddenly clash over a minor issue, it can be harder to recover. Large groups provide a great deal of stimulation, but can make it difficult for everyone to feel as if they're being heard. Be prepared for some of the people you accept to leave. If you have a magic number in mind, such as 13, it is unlikely you'll form a group of that size immediately. Fourth, choose people who are basically stable, psychologically, emotionally, and financially. This does not mean that you should say no to someone who just lost a job or went through a divorce a year ago, but excessive baggage can create problems in a magical group, and in the early stages, it may be too much of an issue for an individual to also be able to support the group dynamic. Listen to your intuition in this matter and follow its guidance. Fifth, do not invite people to join just because you have to, whether because you personally know them or because the group is too small. It's better to be smaller, happily intimate group than a larger, troubled one. If you are in doubt about someone, do not invite them. Sixth, I recommend setting a time, perhaps at the end of 3 months, to ask each member to check in with you about how well the coven is working. Some members may have realized that this is not what they should be doing right now. For others, it may be too much work. I would recommend that you release anyone who feels burdened. They would be welcome to return at a future time, but you both will be relieved, them of trying to keep up, you of nagging. Try to keep your early work rich in intensity, but moderate in its time commitment. Moderate in its time commitment. Such a pace will give your coven a good idea of what is to come in terms of both learning and in time commitment. Shadow Moon had many members begin their first year who had not thought about the time required to do the work. One member asked to be unsubscribed to the list because she was getting too much mail, yet she wanted to remain in the coven. Another member had a physical world emergency take her away from her computer for a month. Both members chose to leave the coven. The latter returned at a later date when she was able to commit to the work in a manner similar to that of a teacher's sabbatical. Keeping these general precepts in mind as you screen your applications will help you make an initial yes-no decision. Another way to decide is on the basis of answers to the questions you may want to ask your applicants, some of which you may want to put into your initial advertisement, such as their age and knowledge of the craft. Suggested questions to ask applicants. I've been screening applicants to my class since 1998, and I'm rarely surprised at how people turn out. And when I am, it's a pleasant surprise. Part of this comes from our refined and modified application and screening process. We don't accept everyone who applies. We are only open to new students once a year, and we are clear that the level of work done by students is similar to that of a graduate level seminar. A copy of our current application questionnaire is in Appendix A, Art of a Ritual class application. At a minimum, you want to know what the applicant has done already, with whom. You probably want to check this if you can, and whether his or her lifestyle allows for work with your group. This is the place to check if your applicant has some hidden potential landmines and bringing them into the light. For example, take a person who is trained with many people or in many systems. Is he unsuited for deeper level work, a degree collector, or perhaps still looking for a system that fits? Another example is a person going through a major life change, divorce, moving a home, having a child, or one who lacks basic support systems, no regular employment or schooling, a partner of a violently opposed belief system, and so forth. I also suggest that you ask why they want to work with you. How did they hear about you or your group? What appealed? What do they expect? What do they offer? That last might sound crude or off-putting, but remember that you are looking for people to fit within your framework, and they should have something to offer that is unique. Having 4 or 6 members be accomplished web designers is asking for trouble, for example. These questions will help you gather a great deal of information, perhaps more than you need. Select the questions that seem the most appropriate. You may also be interested in asking more questions than I have listed here. For example, a Celtic background or craft knowledge may be particularly desirable for you, or perhaps you wish to find someone experienced in herbs because you have a black thumb and cannot tell ragweed from rose. You may wish to have others helping you decide whom to accept for membership. As always, use your intuition to guide you in your choice of coven members. If you are unsure about someone for whatever reason, bring magic into the discussion. Use dreaming, pendulum questioning, or even runes to help the intuitive power at your command speak clearly. Spelling is not an area I would force, however, because if it is right for you to do at the right time, the elements will all come together smoothly. I created the following meditation to assist you in tapping your intuitive abilities. The Dragonfly's Pool. Here's a ritual that will help you tap the power of your intuition. Cleanse yourself and your sacred space. Call the quarters, focusing on air's inspiration and new beginnings, fire's energy, water's intuitive link to the psychic realm, and earth's ability to reveal secrets. Invoke the Lord and Lady and ask their guidance in the strengthening of your intuitive ability. Relax and get comfortable. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. The day is overcast and you are standing near a forest of coniferous trees. There's a wide stream that runs into the wood and you stand on its bank, looking down into a ravine shaded by ferns and long dripping moss. You begin your journey, traveling along the stream bank, climbing over fallen logs covered with moss, heavy and dark like red velvet. Bird calls echo around you, and the damp chill smell of autumn is in the air, hinting at the cold nights to come. Gradually, the slope of the wood lowers to where you are only a few feet above the stream, and you can see clearly below the surface of the water if you bend down. As you have been walking, the water has been getting deeper and slower until the surface is like glass. A dragonfly hovers over the surface of the water, quicksilver, almost as if it's not even there. Its wings are like radiant jewels in the setting sun's light, and the last shards of the daylight are glistening on the water before you. It sparkles, reflecting brilliant sapphire, dazzling your eyes. Blind for a moment, you step forward. You are on the shores of a small grotto. You see crystals glistening in the sand, and the full moon hangs low overhead, casting its light across the mouth of the cave. You stand there for what seems like an utter, timelessly moment, transfixed by the beauty you behold. Gradually, you become aware that you are not alone. To one side of the grotto, there is a smooth, carved hollow. Within that hollow sits a ring of women, beautiful and ethereal. They almost seem like shapes formed out of mist. They are singing. In the center of their mist, there is a great throne made of mother of pearl and amethyst. And on the throne, a woman cloaked in a long stream of dripping seaweed. Her hair is the color of twilight, and she wears a gown woven of fog and raindrops. She sits in front of a large bowl, so large you can almost crawl into it. And in the bowl, you see water darker than any water you've ever seen before. She motions you to come forward. When you're standing at her feet, she says, "I am the Queen of Cups, the Queen of Water. You have come to seek my element." Her voice echoes with the roar of the waterfall. She continues, "Know this. I am the force of your body. I am the home from whence life began. Your ancestors swam in my primordial seas. I cushion your tears and soothe you with my gentle raindrops. But I am also the force of the gale. The wild, cresting waves. Do not underestimate me or deny my strength." She points to the bowl in front of her. "I give you a gift. If you drink from my dark wine while asking a question, then close your eyes, you will hear the answer within your own heart. For my waters unlock the gates of your subconscious, and from there most answers spring." She hands you a crystal goblet and says, "Think of your need to know, then drink and listen for the answer." When you have finished, she gives you the goblet to keep and says, "Place water that has been charged under the dark moon in this goblet, and you may touch the wells of knowledge by drinking deep. Go now with my blessing," she says, and pushes you backwards into the water. The shock of it courses through you, and you shudder for a moment, nearly dropping the crystal goblet. Recovering, you swim upwards, towards the moon's light. It takes more time than you thought, and when you emerge, you tread water, catching your breath. Climbing out onto the shore, you rest again. You are on the shores of a shallow stream, holding a crystal goblet in your hand. You take a deep breath, and then another. You open your eyes, refreshed and energized. Thank the Lord and Lady for their guidance and care throughout your journey. Dismiss the elements, thanking them for their protection. Open the circle and ground any excess energy you may have. Chapter 3. Leadership. Reality check. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside only dreams. Who looks inside also awakens. Quote by Carl Jung. The job description for a magical group leader might read as follows. Leader needed to train a group of people in the mysteries of magic and divinity. Must have extensive personal knowledge and a desire to work long hours for no financial reward. Teaching ability, counseling skills, intimate understanding of energy patterns and fluctuations, as well as a calm demeanor in tense circumstances are minimum requirements. Yet despite the difficulties, many people believe that the ultimate title within a magical system is that of high priestess or priest. I agree that there is a certain mystique to being called Lady X or Lord Y, and some respect is accorded to you simply because you claim that title. The reality is that you work very hard with little, if any, external validation. But if you feel the call to lead a magical group for the first time, I understand and respect that call, no matter what your reason. Your reason is important, however. The first step in the creation of a magical group is self-examination or revelation. Leading does not require that you hold degrees and have decades of magical training, although that may help you cope with the issues that will arise. Instead, the desire to lead is more of an issue of being very clear about what you want to see the magical group do and where you hope to see it go. Progressing through the degrees available in a hierarchical magical group is usually a reliable but slow way of gaining the knowledge necessary to lead. But it is not the only way. There are many ways to run a group and many different kinds of group structured models, as we saw in Chapter 1. Presuming that you are a leader, your goals for the group are crucial. To grow with smoothness and strength, the purpose must be clear and the intent must be explicit to incoming members. People self-select based on the information you are giving them. Sometimes that selection will happen after they have already joined and come to know the members better, but forming a group that remains stable in its membership is a sign of a healthy magical group. Motivation worksheet. The following questions, answered honestly, will help you decide whether being a high priest or priestess and leading a magical group is your vocation. I recommend answering these periodically, before starting, after a year, after 5 years, and when you feel burnt out. First question. What is your basic motivation for doing this? What are your skills? What is your level of commitment? How much of your life are you willing to commit? What kind of satisfaction are you expecting? What is the reward? What information will you transmit? What is the group's core purpose? Its secondary purpose? So on and so forth. What are the group's goals? Hearing the call. I use the word calling in an attempt to evoke the sense that being a high priest or priestess is not a job, but a vocation, a calling from the god or goddess. Are you hearing her voice, or has he shown you this path? If not, it may be your ego prompting you to take on the mantle of leadership. Leading a spiritual group is not about power, respect, or authority. In the end, it's only about her and him. A friend online described her call. One evening, while sitting in a living room surrounded by my magical group, my matron goddess appeared in such a way to me that there was no doubt, and from that moment on, I knew I had to serve her and be her priestess. To quote Marion Zimmer Bradley in the book The Mists of Avalon, once you have felt the kiss of the goddess on your brow, there is no turning back. It is certainly not about being the biggest muckety-muck or having the coolest witchy jewelry. For me, it is a deep, heartfelt desire to be of service to the gods. Service comes in many forms. It is being willing and having the desire to do what needs being done. This can be anything from running the ritual to cleaning the toilets. They are both a needed service. Sometimes the most profound mystical experiences are found by being willing to be of service. I can give lots of examples of my own life, as I'm sure most folks in this list can do as well. As you already know, it's hard to explain to a new person. It is something one must experience. When she calls you, you will know it and be prepared for anything. If you think that everyone will do your bidding if you are the leader, you are deluded. That may have been true when finding a group to work with was nearly impossible, and a charismatic leader could command blind obedience. But in today's modern times, no one just does what you say without asking questions. We're all too smart for that, or should be. Note that this is especially true in a cyber group. When the ability to look a person in the eye and drown them with charisma is removed, online, if people do not like what the leader is doing, they will get quiet and then they will go away. If you think that there will be showers of glory raining down upon you, there are moments, brief ones, where a lot of people will tell you how wonderful you are and how much you have helped them, but they are more likely to tell you that you just did what you just did was great and they really enjoyed it, but they have to go now and poof, they're gone. Off to put the kids to bed, get a glass of water, take out the garbage. This is not a situation where you will have worshiping masses, and you will not wield power as a minor deity. Frankly, if you're into a religion of magic because it makes you powerful, you have problems beyond the scope of this book. A word to the wise, remember that all of our magical power is derived from the deity. Ego trips rarely please it. If you think you can do better than your current teacher or past ones, then maybe you will. You have the advantage of being able to learn from the mistakes they made, but you will make mistakes of your own. How you deal with those mistakes will be up to you. You are, ultimately, responsible for everything. One big mistake would be to assume that you will have help. Even when you create a structure to support you in the magical group, mundane life will intervene at the worst possible moment, and you will have to bear a large part of the burden yourself. There is no glory in this job, and you will be lucky if you are thanked for your efforts. Another mistake you could make would be to assume that you will have to do it alone. People are naturally drawn to roles, and every group has a structure, even if it's free form in nature. You may lead, but you will find yourself complaining or letting off steam to one person. There will be another who always flatters you, who makes you laugh, and still another who always seems to disagree with you, challenging your authority. Recognizing who is playing what role will help you do a great job. Allowing those roles to change will help them become better people. Transmitting data. It is important that you feel comfortable with the knowledge and wisdom that you have accumulated. As well, you should be clear about how you will transmit the knowledge to the other members of the magical group. Before we go much further, I must say this. If you truly wish to lead, then I strongly recommend you join an existing group first. Spend a few years being trained and watching group dynamics in action rather than just starting a group from scratch. There are many subtleties of running a strong magical group that are better seen than read to be understood. In any magical group, being a high priestess requires a combination of leadership, administration, teaching, counseling, and group facilitation. Think of it as the entire faculty of a high school rolled into one person. Most people are very good in some of those areas and can manage in others, and may be woefully lacking in others still. You do not have to excel in each of these 5 areas, but at minimum, you want to recognize where you are lacking and look for others who will balance that weakness. Understanding how each of those roles operates in a magical group is important for any would-be high priestess to know. Ritual leadership. Although as the high priestess, you should be able to write a good ritual, there is a large gap between writing and leading. As the leader, your magical group will look to you first for guidance on how to prepare for and perform ritual, as well as how to deal with any unpleasant side effects that might arise. Your purpose and ethics should be clear so that all who enter the circle with you feel safe in doing so. Otherwise, the group's positive energy will suffer. You should be aware of the niceties of timing, especially in a Cyber Coven where some members will be in totally different time zones. When to hold a ritual, what time, and how the ritual corresponds to the moon and the seasons in the zodiac. Perhaps the most slippery skill is to have is the understanding of how the energy is flowing within the circle. The energies raised by a magical group can be enormous, and if the high priestess does not understand what she or he is doing, fails to see it rise, or know when to release it, the resulting situation can grow to be unhealthy. Group administration. Completely different from leading is the valuable skill of administration. Frequently the area that people have the hardest time doing well. After all, you likely heard your call based on the strength of your spiritual life. It is a lucky coincidence if you're also a strong administrator. Aside from dividing up the work that needs to be done and then making sure it gets done, checking that the information needed is available, calendars, messages, telephone calls, and so on, and making sure that accurate records are kept, attendance, finances, and so forth, administration frequently encompasses the downside of a magical group, cajoling and chastening people to do what needs to be done. Even in the most free form of magical groups, someone is usually keeping track of what needs to be and is being done, if only haphazardly. Teaching. Teaching is vital. Even if you have not created a teaching group, when you are the high priestess, the knowledge you share or allowed to be shared is the same as if you were actively teaching that information. As a result, information sharing of any nature requires your supervision. Pay attention to whether the information is given in a genuine and respectful manner. This information should allow all participants to ask questions to clarify their understanding and concerns. Does it support your group's goals and purposes? Is it ethical? Magic is a powerful tool, and your position as high priest or priestess requires that you safeguard its use. Counseling. Aside from doing magic, counseling may be the most important aspect of a high priest priestess's role. You will be expected to help your group members with many personal problems, working with them to find solutions or coping mechanisms. Having the capacity to listen without judgment, a high degree of empathy, the ability to think clearly about emotional situations, personal experience, and some degree of insights are skills that will help you deal with these situations. A degree in psychology or social work is not necessary, but you might find it invaluable to at least do some reading in the subject area, if only to know when it's time to direct the member to another resource. It is not always wise to solve a problem, especially if there's a specific lesson to be learned. Reminding the member to allow the problem to exist, to trust that it is necessary, takes a great deal of courage, but such a reminder can be the best solution of all. One thing that you will often be asked is to give magical advice. In part, that means that you'll be asked, should I do this spell? Or am I the victim of negative magic? Such requests means that you will want to recommend solutions that are not logical to members who come to you for help. This can include spending extra time meditating upon the problem or exploring recent dreams with them in an effort to find an appropriate solution. You may help them create a ritual specifically designed to solve the problem or to ask for further understanding of the situation. They may be looking for a quick fix, but your duty as a high priest or priestess is to encourage their growth and learning. It may take longer than expected. Facilitating. Facilitating the group is the last hat the high priest or priestess wears. Group dynamics can be tricky, especially online where visual cues are lacking. To succeed in this role, I suggest that you be familiar with guiding discussions to keep them flowing, moving towards a decision while also making sure that everyone is heard. Particularly important skills would be in conflict resolution and closure. And this book has many suggestions for developing those skills. This may be lighting a bonfire, but it is not necessary to be initiated to the third degree or an equivalent high-level title. to lead a magical group. Many traditions allow you to lead, usually under supervision of some sort, after the second degree or non-Wiccan equivalent. And if you have been practicing solitary, then you can call yourself whatever you want. It is probably helpful to have at least belonged to a magical group at some point in your magical career, because it is hard to lead a magical group if you've never participated in one. It is akin to being the owner of a jazz music store if you've never listened to jazz, or a teacher without ever being a student. Possible, but difficult. Leadership roles exercise. This exercise requires a great deal of honesty, but is a wonderfully visual way of seeing yourself. Gather together a variety of colored pens, pencils, or other writing materials, and a blank sheet of paper. Light a candle and some meditative incense. On the paper, draw a large circle and then divide it into 5 sections. Around the edges, label the 5 sections: leadership, administration, teaching, counseling, and facilitating. Now, color each area lighter or darker according to how weak or strong you feel in that area. When finished, contemplate the mandala of your skills. Look for patterns indicating areas where you will need help. Write notes, questions, concerns, and comments where appropriate. Oftentimes, the form that help would best comment is clear. There might be another person with skills better than your own in some areas, or a class to take to expand your skills. In any case, you will want to look for the resources to bring you the knowledge and skills you need. Take action on the information this exercise has brought you. Your commitment, your reward. If you see yourself involved in every aspect of the group, you will probably get tired very quickly. There are many ways to lead, even if others facilitate meetings, lead rituals, and so forth. You could be the founder, easing into the background. Over time, your title one of respect and honor. Perhaps you're most comfortable being the center of the group, without which it fails. Or you only want to write and lead rituals. Then again, there are many roles in between. As a founder, you have a great deal of authority in deciding where you wish to bestow the power can be a difficult decision. You will want to think about how much time you feel is necessary to spend on this project. 6 months, a year, longer, and how often you want to work on it. If it takes more time than you expect, where's your bottom line? I can guarantee that you will devote more time and energy than you sometimes want to, particularly in the beginning. Be prepared for that eventuality. Having an idea of how much is too much and updating it periodically will keep you focused and strong. 2 vital qualities of high priest or priestess. I know there is some kind of reward or particular pleasure that you will derive from this endeavor. If not, then stop for a minute and review your motives. Not many of us are so altruistic as to take on a lifetime's work when we do not expect any reward. Although what that reward actually is can vary wildly. While you're at it, think about when you would like to start getting positive reinforcement. As said, be clear about what you will do if you are not enjoying yourself, what you will do if it turns out to be too hard. Defining the purpose. Each magical group has a primary purpose. In some cases, it has several. Although both of my covens have been teaching covens, that is not the only model. There are magical groups that only meet to do rituals, share information, or explore the complexities of magic. Still others act as a social activity, gathering in a community of a collective celebration. Some focus on one aspect of the god or goddess, such as Dianic groups who do not recognize the authority of the god in divine manners. Others derive their knowledge from particularly mythological sources or historical periods, such as Celtic traditionalists. Your decision as to the magical group's purpose will define its structure and the nature of the people you choose as members. If it is to be a Wiccan teaching magical group, you may choose people who have little or no knowledge of Wicca, although they may have been practicing magic for years. If your focus is Celtic magic, your background in that area should be strong, and you want to choose people who have an affinity for Celtic traditions. The group could be one in which expanding personal growth is the primary focus, or perhaps one of activity sharing stories, providing support for one another's exploits. Thinking of the future. This is perhaps the hardest aspect of planning in the earliest stages of creating a magical group. If you're going to create a magical group that lasts longer than a year, you should consider training a successor. Knowing there is a person who is qualified to lead at all times when you're unable to do so will ease you of a huge burden. Keeping this in mind in the beginning will allow you to choose magical group members who have some experience or a lot and will support and relieve you when you ask. It will also allow you to think of the future, a positive future, when your magical group is so large that some members must hive off and go forth into the world. A lovely idea. Ethical considerations. In assuming the role of high priest or high priestess, you are taking on the responsibility of both past and future witches. Transmitting information not your own or not directly given to you is a betrayal of that responsibility. The online world has made it easy, too easy in fact, to get information, and oftentimes it belongs to another person. Grabbing it for your personal book of shadows is one thing. Teaching it, which implies that it is your knowledge directly, is a completely different and illegal activity. Is your information old, new, barred, or blue? Be clear about your sources, your teachers, your perspective. If you use information from others, do you have permission to pass it on? Online ethics are somewhat tangled at this time, or at the very least, mostly unregulated. But that is no excuse to just copy information and pass it off as your own. Common courtesy is the best rule to use when deciding whether or not to use someone else's work to teach a lesson. But put yourself in the author's place. If you made it, would you want other people to use it? Would you want attribution? You may not care if others use the information, but you would probably want credit for the effort. On a non-legal level, make sure the information is in a transmittable format. Once upon a time, we hadn't copied it from the handwritten books of our elders revealed to us as we progressed through training. I will tell you now that if my coven mates had to do this, I'd be practicing solitary, as my handwriting is so bad that I have a hard time reading it. There are several options for transmission. If the data is hard copy, you will probably transcribe it into a text file and send it out via email, depending on how fast you type. If you have images that you want to think about how you would either textually transcribe them or invest in a scanner to copy them into your computer and send them out in a graphic format. In becoming a high priest or priestess, you are continuing a tradition that has existed since the world was entirely pagan. Our world has grown increasingly complex, and the issues our priestesses and priests face each day have also grown complicated. Your students will reflect your training, your attitudes, and your ego. Whether you like it or not, wish it or not, there will be people who insist the high priestess lives on a pedestal or the high priest is in the clouds. It is flattering, yes, but that kind of ego stroking evaporates in the light of day when your human frailties are revealed. Never forget that leading is a growth experience for the leader as much as for those following. And what you are will profoundly influence your group far more than anything you will ever say. For women, leadership can be an especially difficult skill. The world is changing, but generally speaking, we play supportive roles in our daily lives, work, home, family. Stepping into the circle as a leader can be a new place for us, an intense experience, and one that really can go to our heads quickly. This is probably the number one reason for high priestess disease. when a priestess gets a little too caught up in the glamour of the role and loses sight of the responsibilities. Although I feel that this problem will gradually work its way out and a little humility will go a long way towards that cure, I offer this example to help us keep perspective. In my coven, we have a thwap rule. Each member of the coven has absolute license to thwap me if it seems I'm getting vain about my contributions. Knowing that I might get thwapped makes me stop and think about what I'm saying, and more importantly, what I am about to do. I don't get thwapped often, and I hate it when it happens, but it has always been a good opportunity for reflection and course correction. Finally, I offer you a piece from Egyptian mythology called the Holy Laws of Maat. These are the answers to the questions asked of the dead as their souls are weighed against the feather of truth. I have not told lies. I have not committed fraud. I have not caused anyone to weep. I have not done violence to anyone. I have not fouled water. I have not driven cattle from their pastures. I have not stolen the property of others. I have not cheated in the weighing of grain. I have not forced anyone to do excessive daily work for me. I have not enriched myself at another's expense. I have not taken milk from infants. I have not harmed animals. I have not robbed the dead. I have not defiled the sanctuaries. I have not caused murder to be done. I have not caused suffering. I have not offended against the holy laws of Maat. Asking the god or goddess. Although being a witch does not guarantee a high degree of self-awareness, it should. Our perception of ourselves and our motivations must be clear because the working of successful magic requires exceptional self-knowledge and focus. As a high priest or priestess, the intimate knowledge of your strengths and weaknesses, as well as those of the magical group members, is vital to the strength of your magical group. Your personality is not cast in stone. You can modify or not only your perceptions of the world and therefore your responses to it, but also how others see and respond to you. In fact, I assume that all witches choose to undergo consistent self-examination and modification in order to improve their personal realities. If you have received formal training and degrees, then you most likely have at least some awareness of your potential and problems. I caution you not to assume your pluses and minuses will remain the same over time, and I urge you to do regular inventories to verify any changes. If you have practiced solitary, you may be less sure of your qualities. The rest of this chapter provides you with tools to confirm your abilities. Use this chapter to start your journey, but work hard to expand on the information I have provided here. Fortunately, as witches, we can call upon our resources and techniques special to religion, meditations, and ritual. Following are a few visualizations designed to increase your self-awareness. They are unusual in their design, but quite powerful. Visualization, the funhouse. This exercise is vivid and evocative. While sitting comfortably, read or listen to the instructions and respond as images or responses pop into your head. Do not think about it. Just answer by writing or typing. You are at a carnival and you enter a fun house. Do you give the carny a ticket, coins, or money? Does he just let you on by? What does he look like? Does he seem to be operating any machinery? What is the weather like? What does the entrance and outside look like? Is it a scary fun house or a silly fun house? You walk through the entrance and onto a path with spinning discs. Which way do they spin? Do you get dizzy? Do you simply hop across them and onto the stairs? The stairs take you onto a swinging bridge. Is this bridge rubbery bouncy or metal or wood? Do you swing and bounce? Do you rush across it? Check the background. Is it colorful? Is it dark? Do you hear music in the background? At the end of the swinging bridge is a maze of mirrors. Describe yourself and the different distortions you see. Do any of the distortions resemble your actual self-perception? Do you stop and play, or do you head on into the glass maze? How do you find your way through the maze? Do you figure your way through the optical illusion? Do you use geometry? Do you simply bump your way through it, touching the glass? When you touch the glass, do you leave fingerprints? At the end of the maze are a fireman's pole, a slide, and some stairs. All lead to the small opening at the end of the house. Which do you take? How does it feel? You must cross through 2 openings to make the exit. The first opening is a large spinning wheel. Do you ride the wheel all the way around? Do you tread sideways to get across it? Do you hop or somersault over it? The second is a large doorway that simply rocks back and forth, back and forth. Do you ride it for a while? Do you try to dance on it? Or toss a penny to see it slide back and forth? Do you just hop down it without gyrating with it? As you come out of the opening and at the end of the journey, how does the world look? What does the carney look like? What does the road look like? Now look at your responses. Read them as if you were reading a story. Do you like this character? Why? Why not? What will you change? Visualizations for during ritual. Unlike the funhouse meditation, which can be done at any introspective moment, the following 3 meditations are to be used as part of a ritual. They come from my Book of Shadows, and I've used them over the years to access my own self-knowledge. They are powerful. You may use them as they are written or modify them to suit your own personality. Before beginning each meditation of the following meditations, cast a protective circle, invoke the guardian aspects of the 4 quarters and your particular deities. I recommend having a journal of some kind with you in your circle so that you may use the sacred energy you have invoked to help you record the lessons learned in your journey. After you've completed your meditative journey, thank the deities for their guidance and the quarters for their protection. Close the circle and ground out any excess energy. Visualization. Council of Selves. Focus on your breathing. Allow it to take you deep into yourself. Deeper. Deeper still. You find yourself at the entrance to a mansion. Enter it and begin to walk through the rooms. You see many wonderful things here. Take the time to examine them. Pick them up. Turn them over. Create a story letting you know why you think it's important. Eventually, you find yourself in a round room with a huge round table in the center of it. Moving to the table, you call out, "Let the council begin," in a loud and ringing voice. Sit down. Many doors appear in the walls, and through them come figures which you recognize. Your old wise self, your merry child, all of your counseling selves are here, and even the ones you didn't know you had. They sit at the table. Stand again and speak to them of your concerns, your questions. Say them out loud or write them down. The council is here to give you counsel. Listen as each one of them speaks in turn. You are before a powerful council. Look at each aspect and thank it for its advice, love, and support. When you are finished and you feel you have the information you need, call out, "The council has ended," and watch as the room is flooded with light. The aspects of yourself leave with the light. You leave the room knowing that you can always return at any time and make your way out of the mansion, locking the door behind. You awaken refreshed and energized. Second visualization, Hall of Mirrors. Focus on your breath. Allow it to take you deep into yourself. You sink deeper and deeper still until your feet hit the floor of your subconscious. You find yourself at the entrance to a mansion. You open the door with the key that appears in your hand. You enter and you begin to walk through. You see many wonderful, shiny, intriguing, mysterious things. They seem familiar or like something that you may want. Take the time to examine them as you wish, one at a time, as they catch your eye. As you finish with your inquisitiveness, you start to walk and you find yourself in a long hall. On each wall, there are many, many mirrors. Breathe deeply and look into the first mirror on your right. You see yourself there, the most relevant aspect of yourself. Look at this aspect and recognize its characteristics and attributes. Why do these call to you? Remember what these characteristics are so that you can examine them later. Breathe deeply and open yourself to its wisdom. When it's finished, thank it for its insight and move on to the next mirror. Continue looking into each mirror in the hall. Take your time. Breathe deeply and calmly as you absorb the knowledge and wisdom from all of your aspects. As you finish with each aspect, thank it for its advice. When you are finished, take a deep breath, bow low in respect to the Hall of Mirrors, turn and move back towards the beginning foyer. As you leave the mansion and return to consciousness, know that you can return again as you will. You're relaxed and energized. Visualization 3. Wise old women. Focus on your breathing. Allow it to take you deep into the darkness of yourself. Sink into the warm, dark. Deep into the warm, dark. Deeper still until your feet hit the floor of your subconscious. Within the sea of images and archetypes is a wise old woman. She lives deeply within you. You see her below you and you swim down. You're heavy and strong, moving towards her until you stand before her. She greets you and welcomes you to her realm. You remain with her, listening to her wisdom and asking questions of her and her realm. Thank her for her advice and assistance. Promise to do something to honor her when you return to the waking world. An exchange of energy. Tell her what you will do. As you stand to leave, she smiles in pleasure at being honored in such a way. Slowly, then faster, you gradually swim back through the sea of images, upwards, growing lighter and lighter. Move upwards until you begin to return to the waking world. You awaken, refreshed and filled with energy. When you're ready, open your eyes and record the knowledge that you gained. Visualization 4. Stage door. Relax. Deepen your breath and calm yourself. Once, twice. When you're fully relaxed and deep within your mind, you begin to walk. You travel through a variety of landscapes until you come upon a theater. You open the door and you enter, moving through the lobby to the auditorium. There's no one else there but you. The lights are dim and you are alone. You take a seat and the lights go dimmer. The curtain lifts and you watch yourself. You're the star of this play. You see yourself, all of yourselves, acting in their own unique way. Your angry self and your sad self, your generous self, all yourselves are there. Even ones you didn't know you had. One by one, they appear before you, revealing their nature to you. You are open to their messages and listen eagerly to their wisdom. Listen to them now. The curtain starts to fall as the last self finishes. Remember that you may return here at any time. Your ticket is fully paid to see how they have changed. You rise and you stretch and you walk through the auditorium, then into the lobby, and then outside. You start your return journey, walking slowly through the landscape, continuing to savor the wisdom that was been given to you, going over how you will apply it to yourself, to enrich yourself. You awake in the room, and when you're ready, you may open your eyes and feel refreshed and energized. End of chapter 3.